Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a blast. This is Hitakiri Singh, and today we're going to talk about Akuma's most overall damaging set. I know this is a title that's been floated around a lot these past week, basically, including in my last video. But I tested out all the builds, basically. The Doshigama Horn, the Doshigama Light Bowgun, just anything else, the Sword and Shield, the Cockatrice Sword and Shield, which is a really interesting and awesome build, and I will talk about that later in this video. It's just a really good option if you just don't want to use a horn for buffs whatsoever and just want to put on a weapon and go at it with Akuma. It's probably the best weapon. However, that being said, the hunting horn with the attack boost large, and especially actually using the horn as your main weapon, so the duration of that lasts so long, in combination with a few other things, basically a perfectly rolled Ardian, is just going to be the best option overall for everything. There are some builds. I don't want to act like this build is going to be the ultimate highest DPS thing you can make with Akuma, because you can make some niche builds with Heroic 5 and Airborne, and you just spam Tatsu and Shoryuken as much as humanly possible and get to those attacks so you can maximize DPS. But I found that style really boring, and even though it is making for slightly faster fights, I didn't want to quite do that. Alternatively, I don't want to be in a situation where I have to buff myself out the ass before I can have a viable fighting character. I just want to do basically one buff, my hunting horn, and then get in the fight, and then maybe rebuff one more time in the fight. That's all I want to do. I don't want a secondary horn. I don't want affinity bubbles. I don't want any of that stuff, because I've tried it and I used it and I like the numbers. It's just the time of that setup is just too great, and it's actually extending my fights. So I want to find a way, because Akuma fights are going to be pretty long. He's a low damage character, has low motion values across the board. I think they didn't want to make this too OP of a character. But let's talk about the build and we'll come back to this. Okay, here it is. This is the overall highest damaging set that you can build with Akuma, so your entire move list is going to be thunderous. It's wonderful. First of all, we're going to use the G Resounding Galahad for all our pocket horning needs, but more than that, we're going to build it with attack boost 4 and critical boost 3. This is the weapon that I used in my previous video. It's a wonderful overall weapon, and other than pocket horning, sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where you're getting ready to buff yourself, and you might even get your song off, but then all of a sudden there's been a CC, a knockdown, a trap, a paralysis, something on the monster, and you don't want to waste your time to pull out the other horn and then go into attack. With this other pocket horn that's high damaging, you can use that opportunity to go ahead and get a good DPS window without losing too much damage, and go ahead and switch out at a more convenient time. The other weapon, guys, we're going to use our Ardians. I know it's everyone's favorite weapon. They look beautiful, and anyways, so you do want a perfectly rolled Ardian, but I just want to show that this is one step away from a perfectly rolled Ardian with all attack and one affinity. It took me 30 minutes to get this. It's not going to be too bad, primarily because no element registers with Akuma. I thought it did previously, but I found out it doesn't. So because of that, you can build an Ardian with no element, like build it with fire, dragon, and paralysis. 3 separate elements. So there's, see on the right side of the screen where it says element, there's none on there. It's not going to hurt Akuma's damage output at all, but in the reinforcements, you're just never going to get an elemental reinforcement, because you can't on this weapon. You're only going to get sharpness, attack, and affinity, and because of that, the likelihood of an all attack or a one like this is just much higher. So like I said, within, maybe it was like 20 minutes, I got this one. So and then on my search for maybe about 50 other rolls to try to get into all attack, I got this exact one like 4 more times. So it's not going to be too hard to get it, but you do want the all attack version. So some of the other weapons I have tested personally, and you've seen many videos about. This is the G Doshigama hunting horn. These are mostly hunting horns, people, because of how strong it is to have that attack boost large for the duration of the time that you have it, because you're using a horn and not swapping it off for the 2-minute version. It's really powerful with Akuma, so you want to do that. Now this is a wonderful weapon. You have 250 raw, minus 15 affinity, a 3 slot, a 2 slot, and a 1 slot. you can do some really, really nice stuff. Stamina Thief, really nice. Another variant of doing something similar to this is using this exact light bow gun. It's also the Jido Shigama version. It's got maxed out Slugger, 250, minus 15, 321 again. Oh no, sorry, this one is a 331, so it is even nicer. But because it's not a hunting horn, you can only pocket horn with this and keep your horn buff for 2 minutes. And these are all really great, but they just kind of all fail when it comes to overall damage, because some of those you can build, like the Jidoshigama horn, you can build with attack and flight attack. And if you just want to focus on Tatsus and Dragon Punch and literally do nothing else the entire fight, you can get really, really good DPS out of Akuma that way. It's kind of boring, though. I don't want to act like they're not super damaging or can't even be higher DPS specifically when it comes to any damage. But man, I want to play Akuma. I want to use everything, and nothing is going to beat this Ardian. So when we have an Ardian, of course, we are going to have the 3 slots. And this is why it's so much better. Okay, let's just assume this is a perfectly rolled Ardian. It is going to be 230 attack, 5 affinity, and the 3 slots. So the previous weapons were 250 to 20 more raw, minus 20 affinity compared to the Ardian. In this game, 1 attack versus 1% of affinity, the 1 attack is actually stronger, you know? But it's not significantly stronger. It's not so much stronger that it weighs out what you can do with 3 level 3 gem slots. So because a perfectly rolled Ardian is 230, 20 less raw, but 20 more affinity, it's as close as you can get to the 250 raw in a weapon that doesn't have 250 raw. So you can almost look at it as like 247 raw. And then you have 2 extra, you have a level 3 in other weapons, but instead of a level 1, now you have a level 3, and because of that, now we can build the wonderful, the amazing Crit Boost 5, Attack Boost 3. This is just tremendously powerful against most monsters in many builds, in many fights. We've all used this before. And you don't have to use it this way. When you have monsters configured for other types, you can use this exact same damaging output build and tweak it a little bit, and we'll get into all of that pretty much next. Let's go ahead and talk about the base set, what we're going to run here, and then we'll get into the variations for the monsters, and then we'll get to a fun, the best weapon other than Hunting Horn to use for Akuma. For the Crit Boost 5, Attack Boost 3 set, we're going to build it exactly like this. Max out our Maximum Might, max out our Counter Strike. For the level 1 slots, we are going to use 3 Divine Blessing. It goes so well with Heroics. You have to have it in there. It's wonderful for them. It allows you to intentionally go into Heroics and stay in Heroics, because you'll be able to take maybe 3 hits depending on what type of hits you're taking. So you can actually tank in Heroics with Divine Blessing and be okay with it. It's very, very good. The other 2 level 1 slots, we're going to use a Physique. It's going to reduce the stamina depletion used by his evades, his teleports. Very handy. And the last 1 slot, I generally hunt in our squad 0 feints, so I have Shockproof. You're a fighter, you're in the mix, you're at the head, you're going to get, if your teammates' attacks can flinch you, they're going to. Wear Shockproof if you're in a squad. Solo, I'll use the Flash one for like Ray Dow. I'll use the Aquatic Mobility one for like Uthduna, or you can use Recovery Up. You really can do whatever you want on that last one. But if you're in a group, I'd say Shockproof is pretty much the only way to go. We're going to use the Evasion Mantle. We're going to use the Power Charm for Latent Power 3. And we're going to use Burst level 1 and Adrenaline Rush level 1. Basically what this build provides is never-ending sources of damage and a very, very good accumulation of affinity when latent power is activated. So because you have burst that's always active by the multiple hits of your combo, adrenaline rush that's always going to be procced very, very often, because you're going to be evading and using, even your rolls will proc it too, but you have a lot of cool stuff you can do with your teleport, and it's going to proc this sucker all the time. Your counter strike, Of course, you're going to get hit sometimes and take damage, but even if you are to the point where you're barely getting hit, you do have a couple of moves that proc Counter Strike, primarily your Focus Strike and Raging Demon, and it's not that hard to do either. But Counter Strike is going to be really useful as well, especially when you're learning this character. But we can even dump that here in a little bit in one of our builds if you want to go for maximum damage. Yeah, but this build is quite amazing for Akuma. I recommend everyone when you start playing him, especially if you're not against specific monsters like 8-star Gore, use this exact build and you will notice how much more damage you are doing in every situations with your fireballs, with your dragon punches, with your tatsus. The final affinity that you get up to in this build is you know, this is 10 because I don't have the perfect rolled one, but let's say it's 5 for the perfect rolled Ardian, plus your 30 from your maximum might, plus your 30 from your talisman. That's 65 affinity, and that's not including anything anybody else might be doing, or if you do want to run another horn and play other songs. But like I said in the beginning of the video, that's an emphasis of mine not to do. I want to get in there and get in the fray, and this is the build to do it. Alright, let's go to Super Akuma 2, and this is basically when I'm fighting a thick-skinned, you know, 8-star Gore, 8-star Ray Dow, something that's going to have low hit zone values. Or like for Ray Dow, if I'm in the squad, sometimes I'm focusing on the head, so I might go back to the first build. But sometimes it might be my job to open up wounds on the leg, even though Akuma's not great on that. But basically, when you want to have a build that includes Mind's Eye, you're going to build it exactly like this. Crit Boost 5 and Mind's Eye 3 on your Ardian, and Crit Boost 4, Mind's Eye 3 on your Resounding Galahad. Same reason if you need to stay with the Resounding Galahad for a damage window, that's why you want this stuff. Now, look at it this way. Because you have Crit Boost 5, which increases the critical hit damage on critical hits to 40%, and Mind's Eye, that increases damage on weak points or low hit zone values by 30%. If you can crit hit a low hit zone value, you now get 70% more damage on that spot, and it's really great for like an 8-star Gore who moves around so much. I love that fight, by the way. But this is a wonderful build to fight specifically monsters like that. And the only difference here is we're gonna drop one of the adrenaline rush. We're going to change that out for a latent power, just so we can get more affinity. The thing about, at least for me on this Gore, I can't read them very well, so I don't proc adrenaline rush as well as I do against other monsters that I might know or can read their attacks. He's very twitchy, very erratic. So I'm dumping that for the affinity of latent power when it procs, and it's performing very, very well. So this is your Mind's Eye version of the build. Okay, now we come to Super Akuma 3, and this is when you want to go balls to the wall, max DPS. The Galahad's going to be the same attack boost for crit 3. The Ardian is now going to be attack boost 4, flight 1, critical eye 3. Now this is considering we do want to do a playstyle where speedrunning type stuff as fast as you can with Akuma. You are going to abuse your Tatsu and your Dragon Punch for the damage boost from flight. So that's why the crit is not at 5 and the attack isn't at 5 or 3, because we really want to lean into those attacks to get the most damage at them, because look what we're doing with the build. We're going Heroics 5, and it's a little scary, I understand, but the damage boost you get from Heroics 5 is just so incredible. Heroics 3 is 5%, 4 is 10%, 5 is 30%, but you lose that 100%, or sorry, 100 increase to your defense. So it's scary. Whereas before, the 100 increase to the defense in Heroics plus the Divine 3 made it not so bad at all to be in Heroics. Without that 100 defense, it's scary, but the Divine 3 still helps. We definitely want that. But also what you can do, this is max. If you're not quite comfortable with this, go ahead and do this. Change one of these Heroics into Evade Window. So now you're back to Heroics 4, which has the 100% defense increase and 10% additional attack, or 5% additional attack from the original 5. And now you have evade window 3, which is going to increase the evade invincibility frames of your teleport pretty significantly. See how it says vary slightly for level 1, slightly for level 2, but for level 3 it says increases invulnerability window. It just says increases. 4 says greatly, 5 says massively. 4 and 5 can be overkill, but they can be nice on some weapons that you really have nothing else to build on it, so you might as well, especially adrenaline rush hungry builds. But 3 is a big difference between 1 and 2, because 2 comes in your set. 3 will really help you learn to use your teleports to get all of those dodges the way you want them to, and then you'll get to a point, I haven't gotten there, but with some practice you get to a point where you're hardly getting hit. That's when you go ahead and shift it up to 5 and make it happen that way. This is a really fun set. It's just like I said, it's scary, but if you make the heroics 4 evade window change, it's really not that bad. Really not that bad at all. Still have your adrenaline rush, still have your burst, still have your evasion mantle. In case you're wondering, I do prefer the evasion mantle over the corrupted mantle. The affinity is nice on the corrupted mantle. You think that getting the corrupted mantle to drain your health for the latent power to be helpful, but your Akuma fights are generally long enough that you're going to get a couple of procs of that anyway. It doesn't help too much in that direction. It's been nerfed. It's just not as great as it used to be. The evasion mantle, in my opinion, is just much better because it really helps with the iframes on the rolls and dodges to be able to proc adrenaline rush. So that's really helpful, plus the damage boost that you're proccing with the evasion mantle. So with the evasion mantle, every successful dodge is an evasion mantle plus adrenaline rush. It's really noticeable how strong that is. So that's why I'm going to use the evasion mantle for all of these builds. And this is probably the most interesting build out of all of them. This is a build that for any other weapon that you might want to use, and we're going to just pocket horn for the 2 minutes now because we want to use something other than a horn. This is amazing. This is probably the best other weapon you can actually use, and it's the Cockatrice Sword and Shield. It has amazing attack, 240, and positive 5% affinity. So you got 10 less raw than, let's say, the G Doshigama horn that we were looking at, but now you have 20 affinity more. So this comes out to be amazing. You have offensive guard, and a key element to why this is amazing is spamming guard slash. You hold down R2 for your guard, and you spam triangle, and you do this move that has a built-in perfect dodge built into it, and you can spam it. And so your goal is to perfect dodge any attack, get your huge 15% increase in damage from your offensive guard, and then you just shoot your weapon. Because Akuma is unsheathed. When you hit R2, you just pull out your shield, and then you can quickly shield it away too. So you can instant perfect guard everything. So because of that, we don't need adrenaline rush anymore because we're not trying to evade, we're trying to perfect guard. So we're going to drop that for our latent power again, or you can make the changes we did with the heroics as well. You can do whatever you want on that end, but I would drop the adrenaline rush because there's no point in dodging anymore. Now we want a perfect guard, get our offensive guard, and then throw out this combination of crit boost 3 flight attack. I tried a bunch of different things. This is quite obviously what's going to be best with the high affinity of the weapon with latent power 4 that's eventually going to kick in. So you want that crit boost, and then you're going to definitely lean more of a speedrunning type build. You're going to lean into your Tatsus and your Shoryukens to just get massive damage out of these situations. It's an amazingly fun build, and there's been some clips in the beginning. Try it out. You're going to like it. And really, that's about it. These are the 4 builds. Are going to be the best for Akuma. They're all basically the same thing, except for number 4 if you want to try something that's other than a horn. But the horn is just the best for overall damage for all of his moves, all of his move sets. You're going to be happy with every speck of damage you put out. As I stated in my previous video, which I will link to this at the end, I absolutely love this collaboration. It's amazing. My only problem with some of these other builds, even some of the higher DPS ones, it's the Raging Demon are weak in these other builds. I love the Raging Demon. It's probably one of my most favorite things in gaming. And the Guardian Doshigama and all these other builds, you don't use crit boost. My build does. You have enough affinity where crit boost is significant, and generally when you're going to be doing these focus strikes a bit later in the fight because of the high wound resistance now on these tougher monsters, that affinity is going to be built up. The crit boost is going to be built up, and I'm also going to get really nice raging demons within the 40s per tick, sometimes the 50s. The very highest I've gotten is in the 60s, low 60s, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And then you have comparable, not just comparable, but like 95% of the damage in your Tatsus and your everything else. You know, you're stacking your damage in multiple ways. You have your affinity, you have your crit boost. This is the ultimate best build with Akuma. Can you do better? Yes. But with all the setups that you would need to do better, it's not worth it. This is the best for everyone. Put on this build, jump into the fight, get used to doing a hunting horn attack boost large song, and you're good to go. Apologies for the delay in my longsword guide. My wife was ill this weekend, so it was difficult to voice over and edit some stuff, but I was able to play and gather some more footage. So an Akuma guide and a longsword guide are coming up by this weekend. See ya!